Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. I got Joe Rogan talking about The Rock. And then we're going to be talking about The Rock too. And then I have a very special clip that I'm going to play at the end of this video. A very special clip that is breaking some very, very important news. You know what predictive programming is? Well, there has been some predictive programming with this celebrity for years, and it's all led up to the clip that I'm about to play for you. Because let me tell you something. When these celebrities are so calculated and everything is so measured that they say and planned out, for this podcast clip that I'm about to play for you at the end of this video, for that to be out into the public means that decisions have been made. That's all I'm going to say. So we got Joe Rogan talking about The Rock, and then I got a very special clip of The Rock talking about something absolutely crazy. You will not believe it, or maybe you will, because predictive programming puts in our minds that something that's happening right before our eyes is almost supposed to happen. Yeah, let's get into it. Rogan first. Let's play it.
Think about it as those other people are taking something away from you. Think about it as they're giving you an opportunity to look at what's possible if you really dedicate yourself. And you should choose that as a valuable life lesson. Like, wow, look at that guy doing so well. Or look at this girl like kicking ass and doing all this. How does she accomplish that? How does she write all those things? How does she make all these movies? How does she do all these things? Like, fuck. But people don't do that. The natural instinct is to look at someone who's like some crazy, like super competitive person, like The Rock or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you see The Rock, he's in everything. He's in everything. You want to shit on him. But he's such a nice guy, you can't. It's a real problem. Like he could do, that guy could do terrible movie after terrible movie. No one cares because he's such a good guy. He could do whatever he wants.
He seemed like a nice guy.
He's a very nice guy. He's the real deal. That's really what he does. I mean, that guy really does show up at a fucking hotel room at 4 o'clock in the morning, flies across the world, and immediately starts working out.
Wow.
He's an animal. Like you want to be inspired? That guy's worth more money than everyone. He makes more money than anybody that's ever made any money in movies. He's a fucking juggernaut. He's so out of control. Every movie he does is a blockbuster. Meanwhile, he still shows up at a place. They got one of them elliptical machines waiting for him. They got weights waiting for him. He goes to town. He'll do like 45 minutes of cardio when he fucking lands flying across the world, lift weights for an hour. Like he just keeps going. He just keeps going. He finds a way to not complain, stay positive, and just keep going.
I read half of his book, and that's very like.
That's a lot for you.
And I remember that when he was third string and playing fucking football in Canada, he was sharing a mattress with the last guy who got kicked out of a team.
Jesus.
Fuck. To be now a superstar. I mean, I don't even know how much millions he makes a movie, but everybody sees his movies.
He's such a good guy, but be really clear. That kind of genetics, like what that guy is, that is just like we were talking about with Iceland. That's the same shit. That's the same shit with the Pacific Islands, man. That's some warrior DNA, son. That's a giant man. That's a huge, super powerful man who fucking is so driven. Like, we are lucky. We are lucky that dude is not on the biggest fucking horse he could find with the biggest battle axe. I mean, that's what these people come from, man. You don't get to be that big if you don't have like some sort of a great lineage of warriors behind you. You mean that's so much bigger than most people.
Bigger than Schwarzenegger.
Dude, he's so big. But all those guys, like that guy that plays the Mountain on Game of Thrones, like what in the holy fuck? That guy's so big. You know that dude came out of some warrior bloodline. Some crazy Viking bloodline, because before guns, that was what was most important.
And the reason I played the clip until that point is because what Joe's saying is very true. Before guns, that is what was very important. How big you are, how manly you are, how strong you are. And there's a part of us that still clicks into that type of thing today, believe it or not. So when the people look towards a leader, they don't realize it, but they're looking towards that type of thing. You know Trump is a giant man, right? You know Barack Obama looks like a small person next to Trump. You know that, right? Trump is huge. His son is almost 7 foot. He's a big man. He has some of those genetics that Joe's talking about. Just he never chose to work out and get after it every day. Now, like I said, I'm going to play a clip for you. You haven't seen this clip because it's from a podcast that only has one episode. And that's another reason why I say this is very, very interesting. One episode, and the first person you have on the podcast is The Rock. And the first thing you talk about is this. Let's get into this. Very, very interesting podcast. All right, let's make sure I have this clip queued up here. It's I think this is really happening. I gotta say, guys, I think this is really going down. Here, let me play this for you.
About everything. And then this poll came out, and it said 43 or 46% of the country would love the idea of Dwayne Johnson running for president. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, damn. I mean, it either means you are the paragon of what people would hope a leader would be, or it means things have gotten so bad that they like, we need somebody who's going to come in here and lay the smack down on everybody.
Yes,
do you know what I mean?
I do.
So let's talk through two things. The one is, your response was interesting. You said if that was something that people wanted me to do, I would consider it or I would do it. Tell me why you said that, or what you would hope to achieve in that world. And then also tell me how you see politics. 'Cause you have an interesting view, not political parties, but just like the way humans interact with each other.
Sure. Well, a few things. I just want to go back for a second because you said something about, and at least this was my interpretation of what you said about, we could screw up, we fuck up at a time, and that's just life. But we learn from it. And I try not to make those mistakes again.
Yeah.
But I also do my best these days, Trev, and this has taken years, by the way, to not let ego, judgment, or early anticipation shape my ability to receive what is happening.
Whew. That's not easy.
No, man. It's
not
easy. And so many times in the past, it has stifled either my growth or my ability to see something and go, you know what? I never looked at it like that. Thank you for bringing that up. It's going to help shape me as I walk forward. So, and I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's important. And I know the majority of people out there, we want to be better.
I do. Yeah, I agree.
Right? We want to be better.
We want to be good.
We want to be good. We want to learn from our mistakes. So that was an interesting poll that happened, and I was really moved by that, and I was really blown away, and I was really honored. I was. I'll share this a little bit with you. At the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, rather, in 2022, I got a visit from the parties asking me if I was going to run and if I could run.
Wow.
And it was a big deal, and it came out of the blue.
Wow.
And it was one after the other. And they brought up that poll. They also brought up their own deep dive research and data that would prove, should I ever decide to go down that road,
You would be a real contender.
Yeah. And it was all very surreal because that's never been my goal. My goal has never been to be in politics. As a matter of fact, there's a lot about politics that I hate.
Yeah, I know this about you, yeah.
So I was moved by that. And the reason why I had given that response, if that's truly what the people want, then of course I will consider it. And after that response, that's when the parties came. But then I really had to double down on this idea, and this is the truth, which is, well, I got little ones. And I have 3 daughters.
Right.
Right. I have a lot of estrogen in my house, and I love it. But I have a 22-year-old daughter, and I have a 7, and I have a 5.
Yeah.
And the 22-year-old daughter, Simone, I like to say, man, we grew up together. But I also know what it's like to be in a occupation that took me away. And I was, as a pro wrestler, full-time, wrestling 230 dates a year for years as she came into the world. So I know what it's like to have that separation and not be there for the birthdays, not be there for the pickups, the drop-offs, and everything else. And I didn't want that. I don't want that for my little ones now.
Right.
And so that was one of my primary discussions with the parties, who ultimately were like, yeah, but the other ones have done it like this. But So with the response, I responded in that way. I thought it was important, and I do feel that way, by the way. If that's ultimately what the people would want, then of course I would consider it.
Wow. The people's champ.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now, okay? Let me just tell you something right now, okay? The way this guy's looking, look at this.
I thought it was important, and I do feel that way,
Hold
by
on.
the way. If that's ultimately what the people would want, then of course I would consider it.
Let me tell you something with that face right there. That man's already decided what he's going to do. Or I should say someone's already decided for him. I am a full, and I know this sounds crazy. He's one of the most calculated celebrities that there is. I can't think of one that's more calculated. I can't think of one that's more perfect. No scandals. No too drunk of a moment. No faux pas on camera. No stories of him on set or out in public. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's only amazing clip after amazing clip on his Instagram of either him pumping iron, as he likes to call it, or him saying the most inspirational stuff ever. Straight up. So for this clip to be available, for this to happen in this interview, what was it? It was like 20 minutes into this interview. And they bring up, the politics. I was approached by the parties. It was one after the other, and it was all so surreal. There's no, again, his life is so jam-packed with stuff that the parties can't just show up and be like, hey, ding, ding, ding. Hi, I'm Mr. Republican. Can I talk to you for a second? That's not happening. It has to be very planned out. Think about it. You know, The Rock he's been planned to be in movies probably up until, I think they have him in movies, Marvel movies and other things up until 2030. And that was like 10 years. It was like a whole thing laid out, like what movies he's going to be in. He had his life 10 years in advance planned. But yet he was just able to do this on the random? I don't think so. I think this is a very planned out thing. And I think the fact that they're bringing it up to the public is them trying to gauge how the public is going to take it. But again, we go back to predictive programming. Remember what Joe Rogan said in that clip. He said he could be in terrible movie after terrible movie, and no one cares because he's such a great guy. That's part, tinfoil hat a little bit, that's part of the predictive programming. Let the movies be terrible. It doesn't matter if they're terrible in the box office, which most of them are not. It doesn't matter if they're terrible storylines. All that matters is that the American public sees these movies, right? And sees him in a silly light, in a funny light, in a serious light, in a manly light. As long as they get to see a whole character, as long as they get to see the whole person, and then via Instagram, you see the most inspirational person ever. All of that paints a picture to everybody of who this person is. Oh, man. This guy's going to run for president. Let me tell you something. This is why I'm worried. Tucker in 2028, this is the only person who's going to beat Tucker in 2028. If Tucker ran, if Don Jr. ran, Ivanka, whoever it might be, if they ran in 2028, if they're up against him, I don't know. I think it's a done deal. I think he'll win. It's The Rock. Everybody loves The Rock. How many women do you know that will vote for this guy just based on his chest? You saw that clip that I showed you of his chest. It's crazy. It's trouble. It's trouble. And he's saying that they asked him to run. Obviously, that was for him to run 2024, which is wild, which means that he would be replacing Biden, or he would be somebody who would get in trying to push Trump aside as, oh, man. These people, man. But again, I don't think this is random. I think this is very planned. And I think because this just came out, if this is what the people want, how would you know? The only way you know is if you make podcasts like this and you put out clips like this and you go on your Instagram and say the same thing. And your people, the whole little company that you have, which is a production company, if they keep on putting out polls, seeing what people are saying, that's the only way that you'll know if this is what the people want. Which means that you have to actively pursue to see if it's what they want. And if he's pursuing to see if people want something, it means that he's on board. This is wild. Wild. And the fact that both parties, how dare the Republican Party? You have Trump. How dare you? How dare you? Absolutely ridiculous. And here's the thing, right? You know, I'm just talking about The Rock here, celebrity, this, that. He will do whatever. This is just me. Maybe I'm wrong. I think he will do whatever the deep state says, because that's who approached him. When he says the parties, it's the deep state. That's just my take. He'll do whatever they say. They say we're going to war with this place. He'll be like, okay. And all he's going to be is he's going to be that front-facing person to make everybody feel calm, like they're taken care of. Because they know he's a nice guy, he's an inspirational guy, he's a father of 3 girls, like he just liked to say. He fit that in there, just nice and perfect. People are gonna know this is government daddy. We can trust government daddy. Whew, man, wild, absolutely wild. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter, on Instagram, various places where they're just like, no, I wouldn't like that. But here's the thing. That's Twitter. That's Instagram. The people who watch MSNBC, those people are going to be like, sure, I remember the last movie he was in. Yeah. There's a lot of people who feel that way. A lot of young kids, Gen Z, who be like, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. The Rock. Barely even remember him from wrestling. All they remember is, his Instagram stuff. All the cool stuff he's been doing. All the movie star stuff he's been doing. Whew, man, let me know what you think in the comments of this. I think this is happening. I don't know when. I won't say 2024, but I definitely will say if he's talking about it now, we're seeing 2024 would be hard, but he still has enough time, a little bit. 2028 for sure. We're seeing that for sure. And here's my next prediction. Joe Rogan was just talking about this in another episode of the JRE. He was talking about how a dictator would come in and we wouldn't even know it was a dictator. And he likened it to AI coming in and we wouldn't realize that it was people running the AI. And that would be the dictatorship. I think it would be someone like him. Some kind of thing happens where someone has to stay in power. And then we crave that savior, and he would be the perfect face of that. Because again, this is someone that everybody could look to. Trump, you could say, oh yeah, Trump. People think Trump's a savior. Yeah, one large side of things thinks Trump's a savior. Everybody would view this gentleman as a savior. Unless you're someone like me who has an arrayment of tinfoil hats and tinfoil shirts and whatnot, tinfoil accessories. But most people on both sides will see this guy as a great guy. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. If you think this is a good idea, if you think it's a bad idea, if you think it's even going to happen, if you think it's going to happen in 2024 or 2028, and emails. Send your emails. I'm going to start communicating with people directly. I am working on something. I cannot say much, but I'm working on something, and I want to be able to update people. In case anything happens, you never know with these platforms. It's a lot of uncertainty. So if you like the show, please go to the website, imcoachcolin.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, email right there, and just put that in so you can get updated when the time comes. And I think the time will be soon. Pretty sure. Anyways, guys, other than that, I'm out.